Hello and welcome to Newsmax TV. I'm Paul Chicatano. Joining us via Skype from Washington, D.C. is Dr. Alveda King, niece of slain civil rights leader Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and a Newsmax contributor. Dr. King is a pastoral associate and director of African American outreach with Priests for Life and Gospel of Life Ministries. Dr. King, welcome to Newsmax TV.
Hello, Newsmax TV. I'm on the ground and I'm in Washington, D.C. Hello, Paul. How are you?
Very well, and thanks for taking time to speak with us. Today is the 50th anniversary of your uncle's iconic I Have a Dream speech. What was it about his speech that has stood the test of time?
There were so many messages that he gave. The check that was the insufficient funds check, for example. He says that America has presented the people with a check marked insufficient funds. He talked about people being judged by the content of our character and not the color of our skin. All of those types of things were reflected upon by all of the speakers, actually. Of course, my favorite speaker tends to always be Elder Bernice King, my cousin, the CEO of the Martin Luther King Jr. Center. She captures the vision of her father, and I know that one of my favorite quotes is, "We must all learn to live together as brothers and I add as sisters, or perish as fools." So I was very, very glad, Paul, mostly that President Obama did not really quote the speech of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. He spoke in his own character, and that made me happy. So it was those kinds of things that really blessed me today.
Well, yesterday, President Obama said that MLK would have liked Obamacare if he were alive today. Do you believe that to be true?
I know Martin Luther King Jr. would have been unhappy about certain aspects of Obamacare. I don't believe my uncle would be wanting his little girls when they were little or his granddaughter now to be given free birth control. He would rather her have help for education and housing and jobs when she grew up, those kinds of things. So that free birth control and access to abortion, I don't believe that my uncle would have wanted that for his little granddaughter.
Well, today President Obama was joined by former Presidents Clinton and Carter in honoring your uncle's 1963 speech and march on Washington. Did MLK envision a day when an African American might hold the highest office in the land?
I believe he would have thought that that might happen one day because as a dreamer, for him, nothing was impossible. So I doubt that he would be totally surprised. I think he would be very prayerful.
Well, I understand that one of your songs was performed at the festivities. What was that like for you?
I tell you, my song, the performance track to my song, Let Freedom Ring, which was written many, many years ago, was played. The choir was supposed to accompany the performance track, and somehow that did not happen, but the music did resonate across the airwaves out there and across the reflecting pool. And when I heard that, let freedom ring, and thank God that King had a dream, I was very encouraged. I really was, Paul.
Well, this has really been a week-long celebration, and last Saturday, some 200,000 people turned out in the nation's capital to recreate the historic March on Washington. Today, bells rang out across the land at the exact moment your uncle spoke 50 years ago. What will you take away from this celebration?
When I saw my family standing, my mother was on stage with my son. They asked two or three family members from each branch to stand up there. And as I watched my mother, who attended that march 50 years ago, stand there as that bell was ringing, I really promise you, I was majorly blessed to have her still here and to have the excitement return. She said that it was exhilarating 50 years ago, all the hope and the things that people were believing for, because our home had been bombed in '63, A.D. and Naomi King's home. The little girls and actually some little boys were also killed when the 16th Street Baptist Church was bombed. People don't know about the little boys. So a lot of things had occurred in '63. Of course, President Kennedy was killed after that march on Washington. But that was a time of hope, and people still have hope. And therefore, my heart is stirred and my heart is encouraged.
Well, historically, African Americans lean towards the Democratic Party. Why do you believe that's been the case, and will it ever change?
It may perhaps change. What has happened with President John Kennedy when he was elected to office, my grandfather was one of those who supported that candidacy. And so there was an exodus out of the Republican Party into the Democrat Party. But now I'm an independent. I tell people I'm an independent Republican because I still am very much a conservative, and I vote Republican. And I believe you're going to see an emergence of African-American conservatives. And I know that we are growing, and you are going to hear more from us.
When we talked a couple of days ago, you mentioned that your uncle believed he was a prophet. What led him to that realization?
Well, I know when he began to speak with that prophetic voice, I have a dream, the mountaintop. You can't have experiences like that and hear from God without knowing that God is calling you to speak for him. A prophet is simply one who hears from God and speak what God says. And it takes a lot of courage to do that. You have to say, okay, God, against all the odds. But once he began to do that, of course, we know now in his books, his sermons, and his messages, we know.
Are you worried at all that your uncle's message will be distorted for political purposes as more time passes by?
Well, truth crushed to earth will rise again. People use the Bible. In the days of slavery, the Caucasians who were enslaving people tried to say slavery was okay because it was in the Bible. And I said, you know what? Slavery is in the Bible, but after every 7 years, they released all the slaves, gave them money, property, and blessings. So why did you hang us and lynch us? Where are our blessings? And so that's the kind of message that we need to deliver now.
Our guest today was Newsmax contributor Dr. Alveda King on the 50th anniversary of her uncle's iconic I Have a Dream speech. Dr. King, thank you for joining us on Newsmax TV.
Thank you, Paul. God bless you. Bye.
And thank you for watching.